Good morning, welcome to Walking Boxing. What is it today? Saturday, December 28th, 2024, and really nice day here in the Macedon Range. It's a little bit cooler in the last few days, about 10 degrees I think it was when I set out this morning, and not a cloud in the sky. It's absolutely beautiful, but it is going to heat up for New Year's apparently, so we'll make the most of it while we can. It's one good thing about living here, it's always a lot cooler than the rest of Victoria by about sort of 4 or 5 degrees, and it's good this time of year, and Neil's definitely enjoying being a bit fresher today, as am I. So just wanted to thank everyone for the feedback on the video yesterday about our trip to the States with Team Maloney, all 12 of us that went over there. And I just remember too, the gym, Robert Garcia's gym, was in Oxnard, California. Of course we all know that, or it was anyway. So I couldn't remember that yesterday. There's quite a few things I couldn't remember, but anyway, but thanks for the feedback. There's a few things actually I didn't include, like going through 4 vans while we were there. We had started with 1, and by the end of the trip we'd gone through another 3 for various reasons. We had someone that crashed into us underneath the parking garage at the hotel. I can't remember what the other ones were, but ended up with 4 vans. The other one was Floyd Mayweather's cronies at his gym on the day of the Pacquiao fight. We went there to maybe check out the gym and have a look in it. It was closed, but all his hangers-on were out the front hustling tourists to get in the gym and charging them to go in. So yeah, real nice guys. What else? Also, I didn't actually mention that we went to Fortune's gym, by the way. I didn't mention that either. And also, one of the highlights of the trip was Paul Watson, the boxer that came with us over there from East End Gym, who was a training partner and friend of the boys, who had an absolute war with one of the wildcard fighters. I can't remember who he was. He was a pro, but they were so evenly matched, and they just belted the hell out of each other for, was it 6 rounds, whatever it was, and the whole gym was just standing and cheering and yelling and carrying on. It was pretty nuts. I'm not sure whether it happens regularly at the wild card, but that day it was like the last round of a super fight at the MGM Grand. It was nuts. And I still remember Brian Butler getting in the ring going, yeah, that's the way the Aussies do it. It was pretty good. But anyway, on to today's story, and this time it's another boxing trip, and it was later that you've got another story with the Maloneys, by the way. That was a year or 2 after this one. I'll do that as well. Seems like they're the stories you want to hear. So this one involves Shannon O'Connell, and after we got back from the States with the Maloney boys, I decided to get involved a little bit more in professional boxing, and I thought I would get my promoter's license, because there was talk that maybe I could do some stuff with the boys, and also Pat, my old trainer, had some boys turning pro as well, and I thought, well, who better to promote them than me and look after them and make sure they fight regularly, they get matched properly, they get paid properly, all that sort of stuff that we can have control of. So I got my promoter's license, and I scheduled in a fight show at the end of 2015, and in that time I'd been introduced to Shannon, not necessarily in person. I can't even remember how it all came about, but I had someone reach out and say, look, if you've got the promoter's license, someone that would be really good to get behind and look after would be Shannon O'Connell. She was sort of in a little bit of limbo, and wasn't really having much luck with her career, and all these different things. So I actually called Shannon and got talking to her, and I said, look, I'm happy to give her, even though she was in Queensland. I don't know how this all transpired, but so yeah, it was agreed that we'd do our best to look after her and see what we could do, and maybe get on a show down here, whatever it might have been. I can't remember the exact details, but either way, I was introduced to Shannon, and also introduced to Susie Ramadan. Now, I had no idea the history between the girls, by the way, but I was introduced to Susie. She was having similar frustrations, and we decided that we'd do what we could for her as well. And just so happened, I also got introduced to a man by the name of Eddie Montalvo. Now, Eddie's in America, but was big on female boxing. Had a lot of ins. I think he might even be in the Women's Hall of Fame or something. I can't remember. The big background in women's boxing, real advocate for it. This is, 10 years ago, so still sort of in its formation years, I suppose. And Eddie was one of Hector Camacho's best mates in the day as well. So very, very well connected. And I got talking to him. I talked to him a couple of times on FaceTime and whatever, our phone calls and that sort of stuff, about how we could sort of maybe help if, we wanted to get into that scene, because he had so many connections. And he said, well, strangely enough, we might have a fight for Shannon in Canada. A show's been announced featuring Adonis Stevenson, and I think Errol Spence Jr. was on the card. I remember Razor Ruddock. But anyway, he said they'd love to have Shannon over there if you can help with expenses and that sort of stuff. So we decided to do a training camp in New York and coincide with the fight with Shannon in Canada. It was in Toronto, September 11th too. And I decided that we'd bring Susie Ramadan over as well. We'd all go on a camp together. So the 5 of us went, I think it was. I think Susie's boyfriend or husband, whatever it was at the time, and sister might have come over later and met her there. But we all went to New York for a training camp, and then we're going to go on to Canada for Shannon's fight against a lady by the name of Sandy Zagoras. And she was tough, I can tell you. I'm going to get into that fight in a minute. So we went over there, and I think Floyd Mayweather was fighting Andre Berto the day after, so we planned to go to Las Vegas on the way home. So we get to New York. We got to Brisbane actually, by the way. Sydney, Brisbane, whatever it was, on the way over. And Susie and Shannon met at the airport. Of course, Susie came with us from Melbourne. Shannon came down from Brisbane. And let's just say it was a little bit icy, a little bit frosty. Again, I had no idea of the history. They were supposed to have fought a couple of times before, and they'd had some really nasty words. And yeah, it was a little bit tense at the airport, but they just sort of kept the distance. They were very respectful, of course. They were, on a mission, I suppose. Susie for the camp, and to make some contacts, and Shannon to fight over there. Susie, did bring her husband or whatever it was at the time, and her sister, just to maybe keep the distance. She stayed away from us in New York. But we got there, we met up with Eddie. It was really great. He gave us a tour of the city. We went to Gleason's gym in Brooklyn and did our training camp there. Well, sort of finished off the training camp for Shannon. Susie did some sparring, which was really good. And we met some really good girls. I remember meeting actually Iran Barkley at that gym as well, which was great. He was such a really nice guy. Still can't believe he made middleweight. He was about 6'2", and obviously he's put on some weight over the years, but he's a big guy. And I can't believe he used to fight at 72 kilos. Just amazing. So that was really good. And I think I remember Michael Zarafa was actually there as well. The very, very young Michael Zarafa was fighting Peter Quillen. So they did the press conference at Gleason's, which is good. We also went to Peter Quillen's last training session, and he was a really, really nice guy as well. And that was a highlight. And it was good. As I said, we toured the city and had an absolute ball in our Airbnb, and it was a really good trip. And then we went up to Canada, and it was awesome. Probably my first experience in being involved in a big event, to get there and see Adonis Stevenson at the time was the WBC light heavyweight champion. Errol Spence was a really hot up and comer. Razor Ruddock had obviously fought Mike Tyson and Michael Dokes and Evander Holyfield and all these guys, Lennox Lewis. So it was great to sort of see him. And I can't remember who else was on the card. I also do remember a fighter by the name of Pritchard Colon. Now, he was a young up-and-comer at the time, and if you're not sure of who he is, he was the one that ended up getting hit on the back of the head numerous times, ended up in a really bad state, and such a really talented fighter his career was cut short by a guy that continued to hit him on the back of the head, and the referee let him get away with it, and this day he's full-time care in a wheelchair, all that sort of stuff. So it was tragic, and I think that fight might have happened after his fight at this card. But so we got there, and it was, as I said, it was my first taste of big time boxing, and to be involved with the weigh-ins and the press conferences and the photo shoots, and it was pretty cool. And I know Shannon got a kick out of it as well, and it just ended up being really good. Now for the fight itself, I ended up being in the corner with Shannon's trainer Luke Meldon. Great guy, Luke. He was Shannon's trainer at the time, and so myself, Luke and Pat were in the corner. Pat Connolly, my old trainer who came with us, and it was an experience, let's just say. It was just such a tough fight. In the, when was it? It was, what was it, second or third round, whatever. Oh, actually, sorry, I'll go back. The first round, Shannon, the fight started, and obviously everyone's got high hopes, and you know, it's all go, and you know, we want to put on a big show. There's a big crowd and all that there, and first round, boom, Shannon gets dropped with the right hand, and down she goes. I thought, oh, that's it. That was a short-lived moment in the spotlight for us all. But true to Shannon's form, she got up, shook it off, and got through the round, and came back to the corner. She gritted her teeth, and in the second or third round, I think it was, she returned the favour and hit Sandy Zagoras with one of the best right hands you've ever seen. Put her on her backside, and we thought the fight was over. She was really shaken up. Unfortunately, there was only about 10 seconds to go in the round, so she survived. And we thought, yes, we're back. We're going to win this fight. It was such a beautiful shot, it was. And then I think in the fourth or fifth round, they must have collided heads or whatever. Shannon got a massive cut in the middle of her forehead, and had blood everywhere, and it was just, yeah, a bad last few rounds, and she got beaten on points, but it was an absolute war, and the crowd were on its feet, and yeah, it was such a brave performance. I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube, so you can check it out. But that's Shannon. Her name was Sandy Zagoras, was her name. I'm not quite sure what she did after that, but so that sort of concluded our time in Canada, and our last stop was to go to Las Vegas for the Mayweather fight. So we get over there, and the next morning we had to get up real early. We had to get up at like 6 o'clock in the morning or something like that to go to the airport. Might have been a little bit earlier. And Shannon's face was a mess. She had this big cut on her head. Her eyes were swollen and bruised, and she had cuts and everything all over her. And we had to go to the airport like that. And I remember getting to not really giving it much thought, by the way, but as we're walking through the terminal, I'm thinking, hang on, I'm getting a few funny looks here. And I ended up saying, Shannon, I really feel for you this morning, because she was hurting. She was in a lot of pain. And I said, look, I feel for you, but you're on your own. I can't walk with you. So I ended up having to go behind her, to the point where I actually saw the check-in hostess or whatever it is, one at the desk, actually whispered to her, are you okay? That's how bad she looked. Obviously, she thought she was a battered wife or girlfriend or something, and yeah, it was not a good feeling. But we got to Las Vegas, and she was good once we got there, because everyone was tired, and as I said, she was really sore and hurting. And the first day we got there, we went to the Box Expo. Actually, I think we might have got there on the day of the fight. It was really rushed anyway, but it was the Box Expo. Been there a few times, and she wanted to meet Roberto Duran. So we're standing in line waiting to meet Roberto Duran at the Box Expo, and Roberto Duran spotted her in the line, saw her face, and you could see he went, oh no, and he came out from behind his desk and came out and gave her a big hug, took off their glasses, and again gave her another hug, and took her to the front of the line, and spent plenty of time with her, photos, all that sort of stuff. And he was just absolutely fantastic, and it really sort of made her day, I suppose, after a tough loss the night before. And she got to meet Roberto Duran, and he gave her a big hug, and really gave her some attention. But so that was a good way to finish that. And then we went to the fight that night. Floyd Mayweather, Andre Berto. Not the greatest fight to go to. It was a bit of a snore fest. It was actually Mayweather's 49th fight, and it was going to actually be his last fight. Of course, he would come back 2 years later and fight Conor McGregor. But look, we didn't care. We were at the MGM Grand watching Floyd Mayweather fight. It was fantastic, and a really good way to finish off the trip. And I'm not sure. I think Susie might have come, and she sort of did her own thing with her family. But look, it was a great trip to go over there. Again, we had an absolute ball, and we got a lot out of it. And Shannon actually fought on that show later in the year, and I might do a video about that, about my first ever boxing promotion. I've got plenty of stories with that. This bloody dog again. Pain in the ass he is. Come on, Neil. Come on, buddy. Neil's like, I think I'll get past this dog. Come on, man. Keep coming. Keep coming. I'll just get him over there, this bloody dog. Come on, man. Come on. Keep walking, keep walking. And now he'll shut up. Come on, mate. But yeah, I'll talk more about that maybe in another video about my first promotion and some of the other promotions I did. End up doing about 21. And I've got plenty of stories, as I said, to tell about that. So I think that's about it. I don't think I've forgotten anything. Just another one of those really awesome trips, to go around New York City, to go to the Ground Zero site for the first time, to go to Central Park, Gleason's Gym, of course. And they were so welcoming in there as well. And just so many other stories, I'm sure that I've forgotten that I can reminisce, and maybe I'll bring them up when I remember in another story. But yeah, that was our second trip to the States for our training camp, and always plenty of adventure. So guys, that's going to do it for today. I hope you have a ripper Saturday, and we will catch you tomorrow.